That heated exchange was just the beginning. After the Lakers' brutal loss, things blew up. A newly leaked CCTV clip shows LeBron slapping that same coach in the locker room. It's not looking good for him. Some are even saying this could be the beginning of the end. I've got all the details. Let's break it down. The King's fiery legacy, a pattern of explosive confrontations. To truly understand the magnitude of what transpired in that locker room, we need to journey through the turbulent history of LeBron James's most explosive moments on and off the court. Because the truth is, the man many consider the greatest basketball player of all time has never been one to suffer in silence when things don't go his way. Let's start with one of the most shocking incidents in LeBron's career, the night when blood literally spilled on the court, and the King found himself at the center of a brawl that would result in suspensions and a media firestorm that lasted for weeks. It was November 21st, 2021, and the Lakers were struggling against the Detroit Pistons. In what should have been a routine regular season game, LeBron and Pistons big man Isaiah Stewart found themselves jostling for position during a free throw attempt. What happened next would become one of the most talked about incidents of LeBron's career.
Yeah, he must have caught an elbow or something, but...
Oh yeah, he's got a lot of blood streaming from the side of the eye. Look, here goes Stewart.
Yeah, I think he's a little upset.
You've got coaches, you got security guys.
The footage is jarring even now. Stewart's face covered in blood, his rage palpable as he charges toward LeBron with an intensity that seemed to shock everyone in the building. But what's even more revealing is LeBron's reaction in the aftermath, the way he attempted to reach out and apologize, seemingly understanding that his swing had crossed a line. The NBA didn't take this lightly. LeBron was suspended for 1 game while Stewart received a 2-game suspension, marking one of the rare occasions when the league's biggest star faced disciplinary action for his on-court behavior. But this incident was just the tip of the iceberg when it came to LeBron's history of heated confrontations. Throughout his career, LeBron has been involved in 5 notable physical altercations on the court, each one revealing different facets of his competitive fire. There was the 2013 incident with Nazr Mohammed, where a hard playoff foul led to pushing and shoving that resulted in technical fouls. The 2015 altercation with James Harden, where Harden kicked LeBron in the groin, leading to suspension for the Rockets star. Perhaps most significantly, there was the 2016 NBA Finals incident with Draymond Green, where LeBron's step-over maneuver led to Green's retaliation and ultimate suspension, a moment that many believe changed the course of NBA history and helped deliver Cleveland its first championship in 52 years. But LeBron's explosive tendencies aren't limited to physical altercations with opponents. His relationship with authority figures, coaches, referees, even the media, has been marked by moments of stunning confrontation that reveal the depth of his frustration when things don't go according to plan. LeBron's capacity for explosive frustration extends beyond individual incidents to his broader relationship with officiating, a source of frustration that has produced some of his most memorable outbursts. The January 28, 2023 game against the Boston Celtics provides a perfect example. With the game tied at 105 and just 4 seconds remaining, LeBron drove to the basket and appeared to be fouled by Jason Tatum. When no whistle came, LeBron's reaction was immediate and visceral. He fell to the floor in disbelief, his face a mask of pure frustration and bewilderment. The NBA Referees Association later admitted the mistake, calling it gut-wrenching. But the damage was done. LeBron's post-game comments revealed the depth of his frustration.
It's challenging, very challenging. I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm attacking the paint just as much as any of the other guys in this league that's shooting double-digit free throws.
The sense of persecution, the belief that he's held to a different standard, has been a recurring theme throughout his career. But perhaps no incident better illustrates LeBron's capacity for explosive frustration than the April 28, 2024 playoff game against the Denver Nuggets. With the Lakers leading by 15 points in the 4th quarter of a must-win Game 4, officials made an out-of-bounds call against LeBron. Replays clearly showed the ball had gone off Nuggets player Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, but the Lakers coaching staff chose not to challenge the call. LeBron's reaction was immediate and volcanic. Cameras caught him pleading with the coaching staff, then exploding in anger when they failed to act. He shouted at the bench, stomped on the court, his frustration with both the officials and his own team's decision-making boiling over in full view of a national television audience. What makes this incident particularly significant is that it occurred while the Lakers were winning. This wasn't about the sting of defeat. It was about LeBron's obsession with perfection, his inability to accept what he perceived as incompetence competence from those around him, whether they were wearing striped shirts or Lakers uniforms. These explosive moments have become part of LeBron's DNA, woven into the fabric of who he is as a competitor. They're the manifestation of a man who has carried the weight of impossible expectations for over 2 decades, who has been scrutinized and criticized in ways that would break most people, yet continues to demand excellence from himself and everyone around him. The 2009 playoff exit to the Orlando Magic showed a different side of LeBron's frustration, the silent treatment. After the Cleveland Cavaliers were eliminated in a 103-90 loss in Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals, LeBron left the court without speaking to reporters, brushing off confetti and ignoring taunts from Magic fans. He dressed quickly in the locker room, put on headphones, and exited to the team bus, avoiding media interactions entirely. This subdued but telling reaction to a significant loss showed that early in his career, LeBron's disappointment manifested through his actions rather than words, contrasting with his later, more vocal outbursts. It reflects the emotional toll of playoff elimination and his high expectations for himself and his team. Up next, we dive into LeBron's rocky history with his coaches, the tension, the power struggles, and how it all built up to that explosive moment caught on CCTV. The coach killer, power struggles behind closed doors. The incident involving LeBron and a Lakers coach, captured on what sources claim is newly surfaced CCTV footage, must be understood within the broader context of LeBron's tumultuous history with the men tasked to coach him. Because the truth is, LeBron James has never been just another player taking orders from the sideline. He has been, throughout his career, something closer to a co-coach, a general manager in uniform, and occasionally a force so powerful that it has toppled coaching careers like dominoes. The evidence of LeBron's complex relationship with authority is overwhelming and well documented. Throughout his 22-year career, he has played under 9 different head coaches, a number that tells its own story of instability, power struggles, and the unique challenges of coaching a player who many consider the greatest of all time. Let's examine the most explosive of these relationships, starting with what might be the most telling example of LeBron's capacity to clash with coaching authority, his relationship with David Blatt during his second stint with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Blatt, a respected international coach with decades of experience, was brought in to lead LeBron's homecoming to Cleveland in 2014. On paper, it seemed like a perfect match. A cerebral coach with a proven track record meeting a mature superstar ready to deliver a championship to his hometown. In reality, it became one of the most dysfunctional player-coach relationships in modern NBA history. The tension was palpable from the very beginning. Reports indicate that LeBron often ignored Blatt's plays and overruled his decisions, particularly during the 2015 NBA Finals. The imagery was stark and uncomfortable. A head coach standing on the sideline while his star player essentially coached the team from the court. Blatt himself later admitted there was a wide river that separated him and LeBron, acknowledging that they saw the game differently and never found common ground. The writing was on the wall, and despite leading the team to a 30-11 record, Blatt was fired mid-season in 2016, replaced by assistant coach Tyrone Lue. The Blatt firing remains one of the most controversial moves in NBA history because it demonstrated the sheer power LeBron wielded within the organization. Here was a coach who had taken his team to the NBA Finals and currently held the best record in the Eastern Conference, yet he was dismissed because he couldn't establish authority over his star player. But the Blatt situation wasn't an anomaly. It was a part of a pattern that stretches throughout LeBron's career, revealing a player whose influence often transcends traditional basketball hierarchies. Consider his time with the Miami Heat and coach Eric Spoelstra. Initially, reports surfaced that LeBron wanted Spoelstra fired after the team's 9-8 start in the 2010-11 season. The tension was so palpable that it manifested in public moments, including a famous shoulder bump incident during a game that was seen as a sign of disrespect. What made the Spoelstra situation different was the presence of Pat Riley, a man whose authority and basketball gravitas even LeBron couldn't challenge. Riley refused to fire Spoelstra, and eventually the two men found a way to work together, winning 2 championships. But the initial friction revealed LeBron's expectations and his willingness to push for coaching changes when things weren't going his way. The most recent and perhaps most documented example of LeBron's, a volatile relationship with coaching authority, involves Darvin Ham, the man who was supposed to guide the Lakers back to championship contention, but instead found himself caught in a whirlwind of public criticism and behind-the-scenes tension. The relationship between LeBron and Ham was described as tainted by multiple sources, with reports of a deepening disconnect in the locker room. The signs were visible to anyone watching closely. LeBron rolling his eyes during Ham's huddle talks, overriding Ham's play calls with his own, and creating an atmosphere where the coach's authority was constantly undermined. The situation reached a boiling point during the 2023 to 2024 season, captured in stunning detail by the Netflix docuseries Starting Five. The footage from the season opener against the Denver Nuggets revealed LeBron's raw frustration with Ham's coaching decisions, particularly regarding minutes restrictions. The quotes from that series are revealing in their intensity.
Yeah, I know. I know y'all got me on old man time percentage. Play 8 minutes and 2 shots in 8 minutes. You're just getting cardio. I hate it already. This garbage. Y'all know I'm in better shape than everybody.
The raw emotion, the barely contained anger, the sense that LeBron felt disrespected by his own coaching staff, it all painted a picture of a relationship that was fundamentally broken. Additional incidents throughout the season reinforced this narrative. There was a viral sideline moment where LeBron showed visible frustration with a play call, captured by cameras and dissected endlessly on social media. Reports emerged of LeBron blowing off Ham in huddles, creating a dynamic where the coach's voice was increasingly marginalized. The tension wasn't just about basketball strategy. It extended to team culture and player management. Ham held what was described as an unfiltered meeting to address player complaints, with reports of widespread dissatisfaction with lineup decisions and rotations. The fact that such a meeting was necessary spoke volumes about the fractured state of the team's internal dynamics. The end came swiftly after the Lakers' first-round playoff exit to the Denver Nuggets. Ham was fired on May 3, 2024, with speculation immediately turning to LeBron's role in the decision. While LeBron made no public comments about the firing, his cryptic social media posts, including an hourglass emoji after a playoff loss, were interpreted as pressure on the coaching staff. The Ham firing sparked a broader conversation about LeBron's influence and accountability. ESPN analyst Mike Wilbon criticized LeBron for not taking accountability, suggesting his influence contributed to Ham's exit. Stephen A. Smith linked LeBron's history of coach changes to questions about his legacy, arguing that such instability reflected poorly on his leadership. But it's not just about the coaches who've been fired. It's also about the nature of LeBron's interactions with those who have managed to maintain their positions. Even with coaches he respected, like Frank Vogel, there were moments of tension. Reports indicate that Vogel sometimes had to veto LeBron's demands for longer practices to prevent player fatigue. The pattern extends beyond individual incidents to a broader philosophy about how basketball should be played and managed. LeBron, with his extraordinary basketball IQ and 2 decades of experience, often sees the game differently than his coaches. This creates a fundamental tension. How do you coach someone who might know more about basketball than you do? How do you maintain authority over a player whose influence within the organization often exceeds your own? Former teammate Kyrie Irving confirmed this dynamic, acknowledging that LeBron had significant influence over roster decisions during their time together with the Cavaliers. This admission reinforced the perception that LeBron operates as something more than just a player. He's a de facto general manager, a strategic advisor, and sometimes a power that coaches must navigate rather than command. The nickname Lee GM didn't emerge in a vacuum. It developed from years of observing LeBron's involvement in team-building decisions, his influence over player acquisitions, and his ability to shape organizational direction in ways that traditional players simply don't. His connections with Clutch Sports, the agency founded by his agent Rich Paul, have facilitated numerous player moves that align with his vision for team construction. This level of influence, while potentially beneficial for winning championships, creates an inherently unstable dynamic for coaches. They must balance their own strategic vision with the preferences of a player whose opinion carries enormous weight within the organization. When those visions align, as they did with Tyrone Lue during Cleveland's 2016 championship run, the results can be magical. When they don't, as we've seen with Blatt and Ham, the consequences can be swift and brutal. Historical precedent shows that player-coach confrontations in the NBA, while rare, can have devastating consequences. The most extreme example remains Latrell Sprewell's 1997 attack on PJ Carlesimo, where Sprewell choked the coach for 20 seconds during practice, then returned to throw punches, leading to a 68-game suspension and eventual trade. Other notable incidents include Stephon Marbury's physical altercation with Isaiah Thomas on a team plane, Dwight Howard's public campaign to have Stan Van Gundy fired, and Darren Williams' clashes with Jerry Sloan that led to the legendary coach's resignation. Even in recent years, tensions have flared. Russell Westbrook had heated exchanges with Lakers coaching staff, including a February 7, 2023 incident where he and Ham had a brief, heated verbal exchange in the locker room. While that incident was reportedly resolved quickly, it demonstrated the volatile atmosphere that existed within the Lakers organization. The alleged CCTV footage, if authentic, would represent not an aberration, but a continuation of this pattern. Another moment where LeBron's passion and frustration with those in authority boiled over into direct confrontation. Understanding this history is essential to grasping the full significance of what may have transpired in that Lakers locker room after yet another devastating loss. The media war, when the king confronts his critics. Of all the explosive confrontations that have defined LeBron James's legendary career, perhaps none has been more public, more personal, or more revealing of his volcanic temperament than his ongoing war with the media, particularly his stunning courtside confrontation with ESPN's Stephen A. Smith that shocked the basketball world and provided a disturbing preview of what might happen when the Kings' legendary composure finally shatters completely. The alleged CCTV footage showing LeBron in a physical altercation with a Lakers coach represents more than just another chapter in his complicated relationship with authority. It's the potential culmination of a man whose relationship with criticism and public scrutiny has reached a dangerous boiling point, manifesting in increasingly aggressive confrontations that blur the line between passionate defense and unacceptable behavior. To understand the significance of this alleged locker room explosion, we must first examine the most shocking public display of LeBron's inability to control his temper when faced with criticism: the March 6, 2025 courtside confrontation with Stephen A. Smith that sent shockwaves through the sports world and revealed a side of LeBron that few had ever seen. The conflict began with what should have been routine sports commentary. Smith's criticism of LeBron's son, Bronny James, suggesting the young player was only in the NBA due to nepotism, was the type of analysis that sports commentators make every day. Smith had stated on First Take,
"I am pleading with LeBron James as a father. Stop this. Stop this. We all know that Bronny James is in the NBA because of his dad. We love what we're seeing from him in the G League because that's where you belong."
But LeBron's reaction to these comments would prove that the Kings' relationship with media criticism had reached a dangerous inflection point, one that would explode in spectacular fashion during a Lakers-Knicks game at Madison Square Garden. The footage of that confrontation went viral instantly, captured by multiple cameras and dissected frame by frame by millions of viewers worldwide. The raw emotion in LeBron's voice as he approached Smith courtside was unmistakable and terrifying in its intensity. What made this confrontation particularly shocking wasn't just the public nature of it, but the clear physical intimidation factor. LeBron, standing 6'9" and weighing 250 pounds, towering over the seated Smith, using his massive physical presence to emphasize his anger. This wasn't a casual conversation between a player and a media member. This was a deliberate act of intimidation, a powerful man using his size and status to silence criticism through fear. Smith's immediate response revealed just how dangerous the situation had become. Calling LeBron's approach "bulls" and weak on his show the next day, Smith nevertheless acknowledged the human element of the confrontation.
"That wasn't a basketball player talking to me last night. That was a dad. He rolled up on me as a father. That was not a basketball player talking to me."
But Smith also revealed something far more disturbing about LeBron's behavior, the underlying threat of violence that seemed to permeate the encounter. Smith escalated by saying he would have immediately swung if LeBron had touched him, a statement that suggested the confrontation had come dangerously close to physical violence.
"Because had that man put his hands on me, I would have immediately swung on him. Immediately. That I'm not going to tolerate. But I knew he wasn't going to do something like that. There was no fear in my mind about it. It was shock."
The feud continued to escalate through various media platforms, with LeBron appearing on The Pat McAfee Show to defend his actions, criticizing Smith for making personal attacks and exploiting the confrontation for personal gain.
He's like on a Taylor Swift tour run right now.
Oh yeah, yeah, we're watching it. Yep. We're all seeing it.
Oh yeah,
you're seeing it as well.
He literally, it started off with, "I didn't want to address it."
Yeah, sure.
I didn't want to address it. I wasn't going to address it. But since the video came out, I feel the need to address it.
But rather than diffusing the situation, LeBron's media tour seemed to add fuel to the fire, with Smith responding even more aggressively on his platforms. The war of words extended to social media, where LeBron mocked Smith with a video of him boxing with a womp womp sound effect, while Smith continued to address the feud on his show, creating a cycle of escalation that showed no signs of stopping. What made this confrontation particularly significant was how it revealed LeBron's broader frustration with NBA media coverage, tensions that had been building for months before exploding in that Madison Square Garden moment. In late February 2025, LeBron had criticized the media's weird energy, prompting Smith to defend coverage on First Take, saying players always complain. LeBron's social media response, that Smith's reaction proved my point, showed that this wasn't just about his son, but about years of accumulated resentment toward media criticism. The Smith confrontation wasn't an isolated incident, but rather the most dramatic example of LeBron's increasingly volatile relationship with media scrutiny. His November 2024 announcement of a social media break, citing negativity surrounding sports media, had been a warning sign that the pressure was becoming overwhelming for even someone as experienced as LeBron in dealing with public criticism. This pattern of escalating confrontations with media figures represents a dangerous evolution in LeBron's behavior. Throughout his career, he had generally maintained professional relationships with reporters, even developing close ties with beat writers whom he affectionately called wives, acknowledging both an intimate relationship and the collaborative nature of sports journalism. But the Smith incident revealed something darker, a willingness to use physical intimidation and public confrontation to silence critics, a concerning escalation from his previous methods of handling media criticism through strategic interviews and carefully crafted social media responses. The confrontation also highlighted the unique pressures LeBron faces as the first active NBA player to become a billionaire, with business interests that extend far beyond basketball. His media production company, Spring Hill Company, and various endorsement deals create additional layers of public scrutiny that most athletes never experience. When criticism extends to his family, as it did with the Bronny comments, it threatens not just his basketball legacy, but his entire carefully constructed business empire. The Smith incident becomes even more troubling when viewed alongside LeBron's history of explosive reactions to perceived injustices. The escalating nature of these confrontations suggests a man whose legendary self-control is gradually eroding under the weight of impossible expectations and constant scrutiny. The Smith confrontation represented a crossing of a line from verbal criticism and passive-aggressive social media posts to direct physical intimidation of a media member in front of thousands of witnesses. The broader implications of this behavior pattern extend far beyond individual incidents. Public figures like Charles Barkley and NBA Commissioner Adam Silver weighed in on the LeBron-Smith feud, with reactions ranging from support for LeBron's right to defend his family to concerns about the appropriate boundaries between players and media. The alleged CCTV footage showing LeBron in a physical altercation with a coach must be understood within this context of escalating confrontational behavior. If authentic, such footage would represent not an isolated incident, but the logical progression of a pattern that began with media criticism, escalated to public confrontations, and ultimately culminated in alleged physical violence behind closed doors. The feud with Smith also demonstrated LeBron's willingness to engage in prolonged public battles that serve no strategic purpose beyond venting his frustration. Unlike his previous media strategies, which were carefully calculated to advance his brand or control his narrative, the Smith confrontation seemed to be pure emotional release, a dangerous precedent for someone whose every action is scrutinized by millions. What makes the Smith incident particularly relevant to understanding the alleged coach confrontation is how it revealed LeBron's capacity for sustained anger. The feud didn't end with the initial courtside confrontation, but continued for months, with both men using their platforms to exchange increasingly personal attacks. This pattern of prolonged conflict suggests that when LeBron's anger is triggered, it doesn't simply dissipate, it festers and grows, potentially leading to even more explosive confrontations. The timing of these escalating confrontations is also significant. As LeBron approaches the twilight of his career, facing uncertainty about his future after the Lakers' playoff disappointments, the pressure to cement his legacy has intensified. Every criticism, every failure, every moment of perceived disrespect carries additional weight because the opportunities to address them are dwindling. As the basketball world awaits official confirmation or denial of the alleged CCTV footage, the Smith incident serves as a chilling reminder that we may have already witnessed the warning signs of LeBron's complete emotional breakdown. The question now isn't whether LeBron is capable of explosive violence. The Smith confrontation proved that he is. The question is whether anyone was brave enough or foolish enough to be in his path when that explosion finally occurred behind the closed doors of a Lakers locker room, away from the cameras and crowds that have defined his life for over 2 decades. The King's war with the media revealed the depth of his anger and his willingness to cross lines that should never be crossed. The alleged coach confrontation may represent the moment when that anger finally found its ultimate target. Not a critic in the stands, but an authority figure in his own locker room who dared to challenge a man whose patience had finally, completely, and catastrophically run out. If you enjoyed this video, check out our other awesome videos on the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.